Ready to revolutionize your higher ed marketing game?
Yes.
Well, then don't miss out on Element 451's Engage Summit, June 27 and 28. Explore the cutting edge world of education and AI technology and unleash your creativity like never before. Register today at engage.element451.com and use promo code EdUp50 for $50 off. The global gathering for educators and institutions is here. Anthology Together is where inspiration, connection, networking, and EdTech insight and innovation intersect into the premier event destination for the global education community. Registration is open. Go to anthologytogether.com.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Elvin Freitas coming back with you again. I'm usually behind the mic, but sometimes I get out of my little covey and I come out and I'm on the microphone, and I'm happy to be back on the microphone. I have an amazing guest and an awesome reoccurring co-host with us who hasn't been on for a while, but I'll bring them back. I'll bring them in real quick. After I do say thank you all again who have purchased the book, Commencement, the Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education. We have sold thousands, and we're so proud of that book. Thank you to the EdUp community who's come out. Those who have purchased bulk orders, we want to say thank you, especially to those folks who believe in the book so much that they want to give it out to everybody. So thank you for that. If you want to learn more, go to edupexperience.com, edupexperience.com to learn more about Commencement. So thank you all so much. We got a lot going on, so you can check out the website and sign up for our email list to see what we're doing. So, okay, now that we got that out of the way, I want to bring in my co-host, who is the one and only Mr. Douglas Carlson from Lead Square. Douglas, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. So as I was saying before we got going, this is your 12th time as the coach. I think that officially makes you the the person with the most co-hosting experience at the EdUp Experience.
Fantastic. I'm happy to take that trophy. That's wonderful.
That's great. So happy that you're back. We got an awesome guest today. So I'm going to bring him right now. His name is David Schejbal. Hopefully I got that one right, David?
David Schejbal, but close enough.
Oh, Schejbal. I got it wrong. Okay. So I tried like 5 times. It's David Schejbal, and he's the president of Excelsior University. David, how you doing?
I'm well. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for being here. We appreciate your time. So we want to jump right in, and we want to ask you, what do you do and how do you do it?
Any college president or university president has to be a jack of all trades for the most part. So that's what I do. And Excelsior University is an online institution located in Albany, New York. We're a nonprofit private school. But we have an unusual history because we started out as a public university, I should say a public institution in the state of New York, created by the New York Board of Regents back in 1971. And over the years, the institution evolved. It became Regents College, then Excelsior College, and finally Excelsior University. So we're a comprehensive school. We offer programs from associate through master's in an array of disciplines, healthcare, technology, business, general education, and one of our biggest programs is actually nursing.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for setting the table for us so we get a sense of what we're working with. So I want to jump right in before I pass it on to Douglas. Now, I've been thinking about what's going on in higher education today, and I was wondering, at your institution, what is your biggest challenge / opportunity that you see?
I think just as in most schools, the biggest challenge is the broad higher education environment and the declining enrollments across the country. As I said, we're located in Albany, New York. We know that the Northeast is hit very hard with declining enrollments, and the demographics are just against higher education. So I think one of our biggest challenges is just keeping up with enrollments. We've been fortunate this year. We're all of our terms, we've exceeded our targets, both in terms of enrollments and budget, which makes us pretty unique from a lot of other schools.
Yeah.
But it makes everybody hungry, right? Everybody is looking for doing better. And so I think one of the big opportunities, not just for Excelsior, but for higher education institutions in general, is partnerships. Figure out how to work together. We used to talk about partnerships in terms of articulation agreements. I think at this stage, we're way beyond that.
Yeah.
It's much deeper, affiliations, mergers, acquisitions, integrations, system-like structures. It's really a new world, and the future of higher education, I think, is going to look very different 10 years from now than it does today. We see schools going out of business all the time, schools that really need to be part of larger structures. And so we hope to work with other institutions to make that happen.
Got it. Douglas.
Yeah, so I'm really curious to get a sense of who your student is and who ultimately you compete against. Are you competing against the Grand Canyons, Western Governors, SNHUs of the world? Is there another subset? I noticed also that it looks like there's a pretty heavy focus on military and veterans, which is fantastic. So I'm just curious who your person is, who and what other institutions are you competing against for that student?
So it's a great question. Let me answer the second part of your question first. So we're competing against everybody,
Sure.
just like everybody else, right?
Yeah.
And that's different than it was 10 years ago when the market was much more segmented, or 20 years ago especially. But these days, because of the shrinking number of traditional age students, everybody's going after adults. And so historically, we have been an adult serving institution, and we continue to be that today. Average age of our students is 35, about even split between men and women. And of course, they live the lives of 35-year-olds. Some have families, most are working. They are swamped with all kinds of personal responsibilities. And as you said, many of our students are either active members of the military or were in the military and are now veterans. And so that comprises about 40% of our student population. So we are certainly very proud to be connected to our armed services, and pleased to be serving those students. So, you know, it would be easy to say that our competition is Western Governors in Southern New Hampshire and University of Maryland Global Campus and typically online schools. But the reality is that every school now has online programs.
Yeah.
Every school is competing for adults.
Mm-hmm.
And most adults typically look for schools that they're familiar with, which means schools geographically relatively close to them, right? They drive by, maybe they know somebody who went there, et cetera, et cetera. And so the market is both regional, local and regional, and with some national play. So for a school like Excelsior, because of our military market, we have a lot of students where there are large military bases: Texas, California, the Mid-Atlantic region, et cetera, Florida. And other schools have different niches depending on where they are, but that would be our primary national play. And then, of course, we have a lot of students here in the Northeast.
Do you also have a national piece, like for instance, like Ramstein in Germany, that huge base there? Are you having people enroll internationally as well?
So we have primarily American nationals who are living overseas enroll at Excelsior. We do not have a large international population of non-US nationals. And the main reason for that is that most international students who want to study at an American university want to study stateside. They want to be physically in the United States. And on top of that, there are many institutions, or many countries, I should say, that don't support or even don't allow online education to be offered. So China, for example, recently announced that they will not allow online education providers to offer courses and programs in China. So the online market internationally is a very difficult market if that's all you're doing, if you're not offering campus-based experiences here in the US.
That's really interesting. I'm also curious about your delivery model. It's one, being domestic is helpful, but we still have, four time zones. That makes a big difference. Albany to New York, or excuse me, Albany to New York to San Francisco, California. Curious about just like the delivery, lining up timing, asynchronous versus synchronous. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah. So as you can imagine, especially given our student profile, most of our courses are delivered asynchronously. Many have synchronous components, but most of the work that students are able to do, they can do where and when they need to. So the time zones don't matter nearly as much. And many of our synchronous components with faculty might only be once a week. So it's easier for students to make that work rather than, 3 days a week at noon or something like that.
That's interesting. And so the conversation in higher education is a lot about sort of the enrollment cliff and on the enrollment side. I'm also curious about the actual education side of professors. Can you speak a little bit to that? Like, how is the market for professors with schools closing? Do you kind of have the pick of the cream of the crop? Is it hard to recruit for online? I'm just curious about that side of the equation because those two things need to match.
Yeah, great question. And the answer is it depends on the discipline. So, for example, getting nursing faculty is very, very difficult. Because of the broad nursing shortage across the country and the huge competition for nurses and the salary inflation for nurses, it becomes very difficult to get qualified nursing instructors, because many of them, first of all, your nursing instructors have to have at least master's degrees, and many of them are highly sought after in nursing, in healthcare facilities. And so there the competition is stiff. We're fortunate we're able to get them, but there the competition is stiff. On the other hand, if you are looking for humanities faculty, there's always tended to be a glut of humanities faculty. My PhD is in philosophy, so I know that glut very well.
Sure.
And there was a glut when I was first looking for teaching jobs, and there's a glut today. So there the faculty are easier to get. And of course, when you when all of your faculty are teaching online, again, it's much easier. If we had to look just in Albany for faculty, it would be much more difficult. But we can look in Los Angeles or Denver or Chicago or wherever.
That's great. Well, and remind me, your PhD was from UConn, right?
It is.
Fantastic. What a great school. Good basketball team too. Well, and kind of along the lines, how are you ensuring teacher quality with online? And honestly, I think it's a bit of that conversation is like a bit misplaced in a lot of ways. Like, just because you can't see someone, on location doesn't mean they're any better or worse. But I'm curious how you think about teacher quality, making sure you're delivering a solid educational experience in an online environment. And maybe it's actually easier because you have maybe a little bit more digital control.
Yeah.
Right. So again, great question. So I'm going to push back a little bit. I think there's a myth in higher education that's been there for a long time, that there is quality control on a campus when it comes to teaching, and there isn't online. And the reality is that that's just not the case. On most campuses, first of all, just because you have a PhD doesn't mean you ever got training to teach. So it's a research credential. It's not a teaching credential. Second of all, most campuses don't actually go, there's nobody that goes into a classroom and sits there to see if the teacher is any good. So, so I think assuming that campus instruction is good or somehow better than online is a myth. Online, as you suggested, you have a lot more checks and balances. First of all, an online course is not just a talking head in front of a class. A well-done online course actually incorporates instructional designers, media developers, content experts, pedagogical experts, who all come together to create an experience for students that is pedagogically sound, has very clear learning outcomes, and has a clear progression through the course that provides a much richer and better learning experience. So well-designed courses are structured in that way, and you know, I'm pleased to say certainly the Excelsior courses are structured in that way. So then the role of the faculty changes, because the role of the faculty isn't to make it up semester after semester. The role of the faculty is to take a well-developed course and enrich it, provide engagement with students, provide more responses to students for written assignments, provide case studies or actual work experience. So you can bring in instructors. If you already have a great course, you can bring in instructors who have industry experience, who can bring that relevance and the reality of the course to the students. And so you have a lot more flexibility to enhance the course and ensure that it's really impactful for a lot of students.
I love that vision. And I want to just say back what you said is the role of the instructor or professor is not to necessarily, you know, make up the class every time, every quarter, but rather to enrich something that's been really well built there. And I think that is a very meaningful difference in online education of what you can do. Where it's not as just a different methodology and pedagogy online or on ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I wanted to jump in and switch gears a little bit, because the big topic obviously now is AI. So I know you guys are talking about it, David. So talk to us about, how is the institution thinking about AI, and maybe are you using it and you're thinking about it to separate yourselves? That's another question too. I kind of have two questions. Like, how are you talking about using AI, and what's your value proposition? How are you separating yourself from other schools? And maybe you are using AI to do that.
Yep. So so I think the first knee-jerk reaction by many schools to AI is that it's just another way for students to cheat. Yeah. And of course there is some truth to that if you continue to teach in the same old ways, right? So if the only way you assess students is by having them write a paper or write some kind of an assignment, then it's easy to cheat. But that's not great pedagogy to begin with. So really, I think that AI can significantly enhance the learning experience, but you have to adjust the pedagogy to the technology. Mm-hmm. So assessments need to look different. The best way to assess students in general is through project-based learning anyway, because it has them demonstrate that they can apply the knowledge in practice. So and AI can really enhance that, right? You can use AI to create virtual experiences. You can use AI to bring very difficult concepts to life. You can use AI to help students who might have learning disabilities learn in different ways. So AI can be a very powerful pedagogical tool, but it needs to be in the hands who understand pedagogy. Otherwise, it feels kind of scary and foreign.
Don't settle for average marketing strategies. Join us at the Element 451 Engage Summit, June 27 and 28, and discover how to harness the power of AI technology in higher ed marketing. Connect with industry leaders, explore cutting-edge technologies, and future-proof your marketing strategy. Use promo code EdUp50 for $50 off. Register now at engage.element451.com. Their premier EdTech event is right around the corner.
Epic.
Anthology Together is the destination for visionaries, educators, and learners ready to unleash the power of education technology. EdUp will be on site for the thought-provoking keynotes, peer-driven discussions, and unparalleled networking opportunities. We guarantee you will leave inspired and connected. You don't want to miss it. Book your tickets to Nashville for AT23, July 17th to July 20th. Register today at anthologytogether.com.
Gotcha. And then that second part of the question is, how do you separate yourself? A prospective student comes to you and says, I can go anywhere. Why should I go to Excelsior?
Well, so it's true that you can go anywhere. I think for Excelsior, we distinguish ourselves in several ways. First of all, really, really good student support. Helping students not only in figuring out what classes to take, but helping them manage their lives. As I said, if you're 35 and you got a bunch of stuff going on, you probably need some life coaching. So we help students manage their lives, make sure that the education fits into it, make sure that the education meets their learning needs, that they're on the right pathway, that kind of thing. The other thing that really separates Excelsior from almost all other institutions is our ability to give students credit for what they already know, right? And this goes back to the founding of the institution. When we were created in 1971, we were designed to help students primarily in New York and many returning GIs from Vietnam be able to take their learning and maybe partial credit that they've gotten from other institutions, put it together and create a pathway so that they can move towards a degree more quickly. And that continues to be our work today. And this is why many military students prefer Excelsior, is because we can take the military training that they have, make sense out of it, give them credit for it, and then help them finish their degrees in whatever discipline they choose to finish. So that really separates Excelsior out from most other institutions. And unlike a lot of schools that say, well, you got to do 60 credits here or you can't come here, we don't say that to anybody.
No, gotcha. Go ahead, Douglas.
Yeah, I'm so curious. How does that work with your creditors as well? Because that's very much a lot of people are talking about sort of work-based credit or work-based learning. That's very unique. Can you give us a sense of like how you make that work, whether folks maybe can't or maybe are not?
Well, so first of all, Excelsior is accredited by Middle States. So that's our regional accreditor, but we're also accredited by the state of New York, by the New York Board of Regents. And so from inception, as I said, Excelsior started out as an institution in the New York Board of Regents. It was created by the New York Board of Regents. So from the get-go, we've been designed to be pedagogically sound and to make sure that we remain on the up and up. So unlike fly-by-night schools, and I won't name any,
sure.
We've certainly from the beginning been designed to help students complete their degrees. So what does that mean in practice? We look at their learning. We not only look at former transcripts and do one-on-one correspondence to our transcripts, but we look at what they actually learned. We go down to look at the syllabi that they had in their classes. We may look at the actual training manuals that they got. We'll look at the actual things that they used in their learning, and then we will translate that to academic credit when it's appropriate. And we're not confined, like most schools, to transferring the credit in 3-credit chunks, like into whole courses. We may give students a credit for this, a credit for that, and then start to put that together so that they can complete their degrees. And much of what we focus on are competencies. Our nursing program, for example, is a competency-based program. So we focus a lot on what students can actually do.
That's really interesting and unique. And I love that you're getting all the way down to like the nitty-gritty of like looking at a manual to make sure that if you're giving credit, it really does demonstrate the skill that's there. And there's this interesting argument of bundling versus unbundling. It's Joe and I have actually chatted back and forth about this, of like his opinion is a little bit more college has always been unbundled. I wouldn't necessarily fully agree with that, but I think what you're doing truly is more of an unbundled experience if you're able to give a single credit opposed to three credits based upon someone's actual experience. So I think you're actually putting your money where your mouth is with with that case.
Yeah, and I think, no, go ahead, go ahead. I can go if you want. So, and I was just thinking about the people who are looking at the manuals and people who work with you and what's their training like? I mean, who is going in and training them, say, this is what you're looking for. And when you're looking for, when you're assessing like credit for prior work or prior learning. And I've also heard about some schools are allowing folks to gain credit while they're taking courses and working. So if they're working and doing certain projects at work, they're going to say, hey, you know what? You're doing this currently now, we'll take that credit and you don't have to continue with the course, which I think is very interesting as well. But I'm really focused on, David, is the training aspect of that. If I'm like a registrar and this is all new to me, how am I going to, I mean, you've been basically, this school is created to and ready to go that way, but I'm sure there's got to be some kind of training here. What partnerships are you working with to help your staff figure out how to assess credits and assign credits and things like that?
Yep. So, so again, because this is really how Excelsior started, right? So from the get-go, we've created a culture and a process and a model, and we have a lot of people who work on transcript evaluation, prior learning assessment, et cetera, et cetera. And so we have an internal team that when we hire new folks, first of all, we make sure that when we're hiring new folks, they have some experience, they have some knowledge, and then we put them through a pretty rigorous training program so that they start to learn how we do it and to help them succeed.
Got it. And before I pass it over back to Douglas, I just want to add when you went back to life coaches, you said life coach instead of like yeah, life coach. I thought I heard you say life coach, what I thought was interesting. We talk about student services and how they need that, and so they need help with their scheduling their lives and things like that. So obviously, as you know, mental health now is a big issue in higher education, a lot of different industries as well. So I'd love to get a little personal. It's like, first of all, how are you dealing with your mental? I mean, you're a president of a university. There's a lot going on, and then you have your own personal family stuff going on, obviously. So how are you dealing with mental health? And then what type of services, especially for online students, are you providing for that mental health outlet?
Well, let me answer the second part of your question first. So we have significant mental health services for students. We partner with an outside provider that specifically for mental health needs, students can get expert advice and support. When I was talking about the life coaching, it's not counseling, right? Not mental health counseling. It's more support when students get overwhelmed, when they may not know how to access resources. It may not be, it may be that, I've got so limited time and I'm trying to get through this financial aid application and I'm frustrated and I just need somebody to help me. We can do that. Or I'm thinking about 3 different possible majors. I don't know which one. Here are the jobs that I'm interested in. I'm not sure which way I want to go. We can help you to think that through. Or I've got a sick spouse. I've got 2 kids screaming in the background. I'm working from my kitchen table. But we can help you sort of figure that out, right? So that's what I'm talking about.
Gotcha.
As far as, how do I keep my sanity? First of all, I have a great team. So yes, work is stressful, but I don't feel like I'm in it alone. I mean, we have a really strong, tight-knit group. We're very entrepreneurial, and so we actually enjoy our work because we're looking at really doing different stuff. And then just like everybody else, I try to get outside, exercise, eat well, actually get some rest. So the basic stuff that we all do.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, go ahead, Douglas.
Yeah, and certainly you can tell me if you don't want to touch this one with the 10-foot pole, but I'm really curious because I think you have an interesting insight just with the Excelsior's background and experience in online. Do you have any strong opinions about the Dear Colleague letter and kind of OPMs and the kind of the controversy of taking a percentage versus fee for service? Do you have any thoughts or kind of comments there? And I can go a little bit deeper, but I'm just like kind of curious generally because OPMs so often are doing online and then potentially competing with you in a lot of ways.
So there's a part of higher education that it's just a big mess. And this is one of those, right? So the reason OPMs became such big business is because a lot of schools didn't have the resources or the knowledge to move into the online environment. And I remember from some of my previous institutions, those were always big discussions was, okay, we know we need to go online, but we don't have the money to do it. So what do we do? Either we don't go online, or we take money from somebody else, which is going to be really hard, or we form one of these partnerships, which we don't really want to form, but we do because that's kind of what we have to do. And I think a lot of schools are in that position, and a lot of schools, that's why they form those partnerships. The challenge with those partnerships is that, first of all, they are often very lengthy, right? You sign a contract for 7 to 15 years with some of these places.
Wow.
So you start to feel like an indentured servant, and the motivation by the for-profit OPM provider is often very different from the nonprofit higher ed school, especially if it's a state school, for example. And so the OPM motivation is profit. Bottom line, you got to pay the shareholders. And so that is a very different motivation from a nonprofit, and those tend to clash. And so I think the Department of Education is between a rock and a hard place, because on the one hand, the country needs good quality education that's provided in multiple modalities. It's no longer online versus on campus, it's multiple modalities. And most institutions simply do not have the horsepower to do it well. They can't do what I was talking about in terms of really high quality education. And at the same time, we have a regulatory structure that has some clear criteria for what is not allowed. And the OPMs are walking a really, really fine line here. And, the department's going to have to figure it out.
Thank you. That was a really both insightful and helpful answer. So thank you for diving into there. And I know Elvin has some questions he probably wants to wrap up, but one of the things I'm always curious about is, what are you reading? And maybe not only what are you reading, but maybe what would you recommend to Elvin and I or the audience listening if they really want to understand what's going on in higher education, or just generally speaking, anything you think would be worth recommending?
So I say this to my team too. I actually encourage at least my team not to read higher ed stuff. I mean, we all read Inside Higher Ed every morning. If you want to just keep current, read Inside Higher Ed, read the Chronicle, just skim the headlines and see if there's anything critical that you got to know for the day. But if you want to know how to position an institution, pay attention to what's going on outside of higher ed, because we are part of a big system, right? It's a huge ecosystem that's impacted by the economy, it's impacted by the regulatory structure, and it's impacted heavily more and more by social media and crazy politics. It's impacted by cultural challenges, and so how those things intersect and how they impact one another makes a huge difference for higher education, right? I mean, the demographic shifts that we're talking about are primarily, well, not primarily, directly attributable to the big recession in 2008 and 9, because people weren't having kids because they were worried about whether they were going to have a house. And so you can see how these huge national and global impacts trickle down to higher education. And so it's a long answer to your question, but I think being really up to date about what's going on with outside of higher education is critically important. And then read good fiction, because it's fun.
Here.
That's great. I love that. And you know what, David? I love that answer so much, because I was just I wrote a post today about the NFL and this I think it's just a brilliant marketing plan where they release the schedules of each football team, and they just hit it out of the park. Each football team created their own marketing campaign to release a schedule, and there was one really smart one by Tennessee Titans where they were showing people the logos and they had no idea who they were, and it was just really, really smart. And so that's a perfect example of look at what other industries are doing and see how we can implement that into higher education. So I love that example. Okay, this has been great, David. We appreciate your time. We have 2 final questions. First of all, did we miss anything about Excelsior that you want to talk about? Anything got coming up, especially because you talked about partnerships. So I'd be curious to hear if you have any future partnerships coming up, or if you want to partner with someone in particular. We'd love to hear about that. Again, if you have any announcements you want to talk about, anything going on for Excelsior. And then you also talked about the future of higher education very early on. And I know it had to do with partnerships again. But if you want to expound on that as to what you see as the future of higher education.
Sure. So thanks. I would love to talk about our budding partnerships, but we have non-disclosure agreements with all of the schools that we're currently working with, so I can't say anything about those. What I can say is this. As I mentioned, we have a programmatic array that focuses on business, technology, and healthcare. When we look at, and again, this is stepping outside of higher ed, what's going on in the broader hiring landscape across the country, and not just which jobs do we need for the next year, but kind of what's going to be critical for the next 10 to 20 years. It's hard to imagine that healthcare isn't going to be top of mind, right? The country is aging. There just aren't enough people working in the industry, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just critical. So as we look at partnerships, we are very interested in partnering with institutions that may not be able to go it alone anymore, but that also have similar cultures to ours, that have similar programmatic interests as we do, et cetera. So, for example, schools that have maybe entry-level healthcare programs, because we don't have those. So, medical assisting, medical coding, entry-level nursing, et cetera, because then those students can dovetail into our programs, and there's real synergy between us and the other institution. Same thing on the top end. We don't have, for example, doctoral programs. We don't have a doctorate of nursing practice and that kind of thing. So again, schools that might do that. Similarly, we just created a new College of Nursing and Health Sciences, and because we're really committed to that area. And within the College of Nursing and Health Sciences, we have a School of Nursing and we have a School of Health Sciences. We want to add a School of Mental Health Counseling, because we know that, first of all, that triad is intimately connected. And we want to build that capacity, but we're not going to build it organically in my lifetime. I mean, it's just building programs. I mean, we all know how horrible that is from just the investment and the time it takes. So bringing on a partner that already has a master's in social work, a clinical PsyD program, psychology program, et cetera, would be terrific. We'd love to partner with schools like that. So and then finally, I'll say that geography matters. We have a strong presence in the Northeast. We know that. But the Mid-Atlantic region, if you think of New York to Chapel Hill, is a densely populated, huge demographic area. We'd love to partner with schools in that area. We have critical masses of students in Texas, in the Dallas, Houston corridor, right? Another huge geographic area. Love to partner with schools there. Southern California, basically San Francisco to the Mexican border. Love to partner with schools there. We see this not only as a programmatic opportunity, but we also see it as a locational opportunity. So to your other part of the question, so kind of what's the future of higher ed? I think that's it, right? I mean, we're not doing this because we just kind of like doing it. We're doing this because I really think that this is where the country's going. The individual institutions, if you take the elite cream of the crop schools out, right? Harvard doesn't need to do these partnerships. Yale doesn't, blah, blah, blah. And then you take the really dying schools that are going out of business. They're just going to go out of business, unfortunately, but they're done. We see this happening all the time. And then there's everybody in the middle. And in my opinion, the smart ones are going to start to create some kind of conglomerates. There's a consolidation happening in higher education today that happened in healthcare 20 years ago. And that isn't going to be stopping anytime soon. And so how you position for that consolidation, I think, is critically important. And I don't think most schools are paying enough attention to it. We're paying a whole lot of attention to it.
Wow, that was a fantastic response, David. I really appreciate that, the consolidation consortium and the partnership. That's definitely been a theme in a lot of other podcast episodes that we've spoken to presidents as well. So this has been fantastic. I just want to first say thank you to Mr. Douglas Carlson from Lead Squared. Thanks for coming on and being a great. You always ask great questions. I've noticed every single guest has always said, "That's a good question." You always do that, Douglas. So kudos to you. That's great.
Well, thank you. You always have great guests, so it makes it easy.
That's great. And then I want to outro our guest today, your guest today, David. I'm going to say it wrong. How's the last name again? I'm going to say it wrong. Schejbal.
Schejbal with a K.
There it is.
If it were with a K.
Thank you, President at Excelsior University. David, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. Have you enjoyed your EdUp experience today?
I did. This was terrific and great to meet both of you. Really appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Great. Thank you. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd.
Experience Element 451's Engage Summit Conference this June and get ready to unleash the power of AI in higher ed marketing. Deep dive into how this emerging tech will revolutionize the education landscape, from personalized student engagement to turbocharging your marketing efforts with AI. These sessions are guaranteed to help you smash your enrollment goals. Connect with like-minded professionals, explore cutting-edge ed tech products and services, and leave with the knowledge to supercharge your institution's growth. Don't wait. Register now at engage.element451.com and seize your chance to lead the pack in the AI-driven education revolution. Use promo code EdUp50 for $50 off your registration. Now, what can you expect at AT23? That's Anthology Together 2023. Well, expect to look into the future, expand your network, and explore solutions with experts. You're going to hear from industry thought leaders. You're going to connect with countless opportunities and people representing different institutions across the globe. You might even get to test out some new tech and help drive future anthology technology. That's right, Anthology Together. Registration is open at anthologytogether.com.